You're listening to MinerTalk on demand exclusively on 600 ESPN El Paso. Stay up to date with MinerTalk by downloading the free 600 ESPN El Paso mobile app.
Here's a pass left side of the lane. Paredes' fall-away jumper is good.
Canateo high.
All right, welcome back. It is MinerTalk. We are live along with Sal Montes. I'm Adrian Broadus. We're getting ready. It's UTEP Hoops. Sol Ross, UTEP beats him out by 40 points, 99-59. Let's talk about it with you. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. That's our telephone number to get into the program. We're also at 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter, at 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter. And I get it. Tonight will be a different show. It's Sol Ross. It's a Division III program that the Miners went up against. And, you know, they got to show off what they've been doing these first couple weeks of college hoops action. And we saw it against Texas. This is a stifling defense that hangs in games. We saw it against New Mexico State, where I felt like, again, revisiting that game in the Battle of I-10, the Miners controlled that one, and they deserved to win that game. And UTEP just did a great job on both ends. On both ends. And in this contest, it's kind of all that hard work culminating into one. They did not. They looked poised. They did not look shaky. They did not look sluggish or overlook this Sol Ross team. This is exactly what you wanted to see from a UTEP basketball team. And I think we're starting to learn a little bit more about individual players. There's not much we can take away from this one. I saw way too many overreactions on Twitter on this game, and it's like, come on, man. This is Sol Ross State, for better or for worse. This is just one of those games that you just chalk up and say, hey, it's UTEP going up against a team in another uniform, and they're going to try to just get better tonight. And they did. 32 turnovers that they forced. They had a school record 24 steals. That's really impressive right there by this UTEP defense, which I believe continues to get better and better. And Sal, we know the rotation. The rotation's staring at us right in the face. There's 11 guys on this roster. They can play legitimate minutes, and that's comforting if you're a UTEP fan.
Yeah, and pretty much every guy we saw play today, right, with the exception of probably Antoine Holmes, has already touched the floor, which I think was huge. So for the Miners to go out there and give guys minutes, where if we can be honest, throughout the year, I think everybody's going to see some minutes just based off of the defense and the intensity. So when guys, go off the floor to the bench and somebody's coming in to replace them for whatever reason, right, rotations or foul trouble, that intensity should not slow down, and that defensive pressure should continue to be applied. And we got to see that today, and you're right. What do we make of it? At the end of the day, we got to make something of it. But
sure,
at the end of the day, it's the Lobos of Sol Ross, a Division III team that the Miners, if we can be honest, overpowered. And any Division I team pretty much is going to overpower a D3. And that's no knock. It's just you want to be proud of the defensive effort. But this one's already in the books. Got to look forward to Alcorn State if you're the Miners.
We could talk a little bit about some of the disappointing things we saw just for maybe the first three games for UTEP and what we want to see improved overall. We could talk a little bit about some of the best newcomers on this squad. We can also talk about some of the guys who are kind of waiting behind the scenes, who might emerge throughout the year. And maybe we saw flashes of that tonight. Real quick, want to reel off the rotation that we've seen. So I think we can narrow it down to 10. If you want to stretch it out to 11, that's totally fine. So the first starting five, I think it'll stay like this for a little while. Tay Hardy, Shamar Givens, those two guys round out the backcourt. Then you have, of course, at the wing position, Otis Frazier III, which we'll get to him in just a little bit, and the impact that he's made on the floor thus far into the season. The front court is led by Calvin Solomon and Zarek Onyema. I think that rounds out your starting five right there. You good with that, Sal? You good with that starting five?
You know what? I am. And it's tough because I do think Mario McKinney, and we'll touch on where he'll be, where we think he should be at, or where I think he should be at in a bit. But I have no problem with that lineup, because whether that's a starting lineup or not, that lineup is going to be on the floor at some point.
I agree. And so I think that's going to be at least your initial rotation, your initial starting five. And then the second group, okay? It's made up of, like you mentioned, Mario McKinney Jr. He's that first sixth man for this group. Then you look at Malik Zachary. He's going to be the guy who spells Shamar Givens in the backcourt at the point guard position. Carlos Lemos. I'm impressed, man. I think that I didn't think we would see this. He's surprising me so far. I like this. And Jamari Sibley, he's kind of that seventh man. I called Mario McKinney the sixth man. Jamari Sibley might be that de facto sixth man or seventh man. He'll spell Otis Frazier the third or a forward. Like, he could also play that 4 spot and slide in nicely where Jonathan Dos Anjos was supposed to play as well, before he got that injury. Kevin Kalu rounds out that second unit. He'll come in as a reserve for Zarek Onyema, and I think those two are kind of interchangeable. I don't think that either of them should feel bad if they're not the starter. If they're coming off the bench, they have a certain role, and I think that Zarek and Kevin can provide a lot of good things at that center position. I don't think you're going to need to toy with having Calvin Solomon and Jamari Sibley on the floor together instead of having one of Onyema and Kalu on the floor. I think you can put both Onyema and Kalu, as long as they're not in foul trouble. You can put at least one of them on the floor, and they're going to hold their own. So,
well, yeah, and especially if you need to get stops on defense, or that's the first part, right? Forcing a miss, but the second part is reeling it in and getting the board. You have two guys that you can trust to grab that board, and the more that those two are in sync with each other, the better it's going to be for the defense because they'll be able to seal the deal.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think the only other player that you can call to maybe round out this list, maybe he's going to fight all year long, at least in the non-conference part of it, to try to get minutes and earn minutes in CUSA time. That's going to be Derek Hamilton. And I think it's an uphill battle for him, but he's not too far off. We'll get into the players individually in just a little bit, but that's at least 11 players right there that you could see playing. Now, the interesting part is when Jonathan Dos Anjos comes back in, how does that affect everything? It's kind of like the whole, and I don't want to compare it too much, but it is kind of like the Keontae Kennedy situation, right?
Like the missing time and then coming back and affecting the lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that Dos Anjos, he started that first game, right? Like excuse me. He did not start that first game, but he came off the bench. He played in just a minute, and then that's when he suffered that injury. But you have to look at him as somebody who is going to be playing those significant minutes with this group because he has that kind of talent. So I think it's going to be something where I really like the depth with this group, and I think it's going to be something where they're going to flex that depth even into conference play because they can rely on so many different guys. Now, as far as this show goes, I want to just mention our telephone number is 915-505-6009 to get into Miner Talk. We'll open up the phone lines the entire time, but I understand tonight might be a little slower on the calls. Not a lot to take away as far as maybe like big hot takes or stuff like that. But what we're going to do for everybody out there right now who's listening in to us, we are going to give away 2 tickets to the UTEP football game this Saturday. It's senior day. We will give away 2 tickets to the caller of the show. So all you have to do is give us a call and tell us, what you liked about this UTEP team. What impresses you, or what are some of the things that you want this team to work on? All you have to do is give us a call, 915-505-6009. Come on with us here on Miner Talk. Caller of the show will take home 2 tickets that they could pick up here at our radio station as this week continues. But let's keep it moving here on Miner Talk. Again, I don't expect too much here on the phone lines. That's why me and Sal are going to probably take most of this ourselves and talk about it at length. But Really want to talk about players individually. Also want to talk a little bit about signing day, which it's kind of belated a little bit. I mean, these guys signed last week, and UTEP's announcing it today. I get it. I understand why they're doing that. It's because they had a big game last Saturday, and I'm sure that was a priority right there. I want to talk a little bit more as far as the rotation. I also want to talk a little bit about some of the former Miners that we're seeing across the country doing some big work, and some local players doing some big work across the country and how they've got off to a start. We definitely want to talk all about that as well as Miner Talk continues. We're presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. You can check out riseup915.com. That's easy to remember, right? I mean, it's UTEP's incentive. Riseup915.com. That's where you can register for some awesome game day prizes with the Oscar Arieta Agency. They bring you the Hometown Hero Award for every UTEP game. You saw the Hometown Hero Award honored today as usual, and you can just check them out, OscarArietaAgency.com. Also want to mention, we'll give out our awards later on in the show. It's our hot hand of the game, thanks to our great friends at Wind Supply El Paso, and then our player of the game, brought to you by Keats Southwest. Let's continue here talking some UTEP hoops. Sal, I basically, what I did in this game is I just jotted down notes next to each player, and I just wanted to zero in on every player like through a big stretch of the game just to try to get a good takeaway from them. And I just want to get your reaction based off what you've seen, what you've heard with this squad so far. And with this group, I think that there's a lot of things that you can improve on, but at the same point, I think there's something that you can also say about, hey, there are things that they need to develop. There are things that they need to get better at. And next week, you heard from head coach Joe Golding, when they're taking on a team like Alcorn State, then Cal State Bakersfield, and then Texas A&M Corpus Christi, they've got to be sharp next week in order to try to go 3-0. And I'm putting that on them. They've got to go 3-0 in this next stretch right here ahead of that Wednesday game on the road against New Mexico State on November 30th to close out the month of November. Now, of course, Miner fans would want UTEP to finish out the month of November with a record of, 6-1. Their only loss being against Texas, beating out New Mexico State twice. I think that might be unrealistic, but I don't think that's too far off. And I still think that as they play more Division I teams like they will next week, we'll continue to learn more about this squad. Now, just to talk a little bit about Alcorn State, like head coach Joe Golding mentioned in his post-game interview, they beat out Wichita State last Saturday. They just beat Stephen F. Austin tonight. So UTEP's getting a tough team that's coming into town next week, and that's not a given right off the bat. They're a team that plays great defense. They are a team that loves to rebound the basketball on both sides, and they're a team that shoots the three-point ball exceptionally well. So when it comes to Alcorn State, we'll preview them a little bit later on in the show, but that's not a given game right there, Sal. And I think right there what you have to understand is for UTEP, they've got to get all these games that they have at home. They have to win all of them to try to protect home court as best as possible.
Yeah, for sure, especially when the Don has been a tough place for teams to come in and beat the Miners at over the years, especially with Golding last year. I think he was solidifying, that presence back at home court, which is if we could be honest, that was a priority of his in his press conference too. So this is a good step. It's not the most appealing schedule if you're just kind of looking at names and you're not too familiar with it.
Right.
But Alcorn is definitely a tough squad. So they're going to have to be on their A game if they want to stand a chance to beat Alcorn State. Because congratulations, you're on 2-game win streak. If we could be real, a 1-game win streak. But you're riding high on those 2 wins. But those are in the books now. You're going to see that first team that you beat down the road again
very soon,
exactly. And then now you got to defend your home court in a I don't want to say tournament, but in a invitation, or I don't know what to make of it. The Classic, there we go.
Yeah,
the Jim Forbes Classic. So it's a new classic that they embedded and they installed. So they want to get that off to a good start too, especially as legendary as Jim Forbes and Coach Forbes was.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sal. I love the fact that they're honoring him, one of the best coaches to ever walk here in the city of El Paso. And for the multiple team events, it's interesting, right? Because this is something college basketball adopted recently, where it gives schools an excuse to host 3 different teams at their venues for non-exempt tournaments. So this is beneficial to UTEP. They get 3 home games out of it. It's Alcorn State, Cal State Bakersfield, and of course Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Those are the 3 contests that they have next week as part of this multiple team event. Not necessarily like a tournament or like an invitational as we're used to with the Sun Bowl Invitational. That one awards players. It gives a championship team at the end. People play for kind of that title. This time around, it's kind of playing for that for bragging rights. I don't know if there's any sort of like title or like any kind of formality when it comes to that, but I do know that these have been recently introduced in college basketball. The exempt multiple team events. That's exactly what it's called.
Okay, got it.
So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how UTEP fares against those teams, but we'll go over next week's schedule later on in the show. Let's take some calls. Let's welcome on Adrian, who's joining us here on the phone lines. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. I almost said our old number. Wow, that was bad. But nonetheless, our new telephone number, 915-505-6009. We're giving away UTEP tickets for Saturday's Senior Day game against Florida International to the caller of the show. Adrian, welcome on to the program, man. How's it going?
Good, and yourself, Adrian?
Doing fine, Tocayo. What'd you think of this game?
I I didn't actually watch it. I just heard it over the radio.
Okay.
So I really wasn't able to see, what's it called? How the team performed in general in regards to passing and just playing as a team in general, right?
Sure.
It's expected for them to beat a Division III team. Usually this is those type of games to just give confidence to the team itself. And but my question is was this something that they needed for them to, from now on to the future, to progress as a team, or is it just giving them too much confidence?
Yeah, I see where you're.
Probably does not.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this, Adrian. I also think that, I think that's an interesting question. I would just say that it could be this year, it could be next year, it could be last year, it could be 3 years, 5 years from now, whatever it is. UTEP will continue to play these regional exhibition games, and some of them, most of the time, I think they'll be the first game of the year, if not maybe the second game. This time around, it's the third game after back-to-back physical games against Texas, New Mexico State. So I think that's the reason why this scheduling ended up happening. They have one more like this Saturday, December 3rd against Northern New Mexico. So we'll see another contest similar to this.
Well, I like the fact that they started off strong in regards to teams that they had to play at the beginning of the season. A tough loss against Texas and a great win against NMSU. And this one was just, in my opinion, just for the mental aspect of getting these guys motivated to play as best as they can.
Yeah, I get you.
Golding is doing a good job. I like that. I like the fact that I don't know if he did the whole scheduling, but something different. Hopefully they don't think that now that they just beat the Sul Ross is going to make them, a contender. It's going to be game after game, one game at a time, and hopefully they just get better. Defensive-wise, they still need to improve.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Adrian. I like where you're going with this. I think there are a lot of areas that they still need to improve on. Great phone call. I really appreciate the phone call, man. Thanks for weighing in on MinerTalk here with us. You definitely entered your name in the hat to win these UTEP football tickets, so we'll give you a call. We'll shoot you a text if you're the winner, or just keep listening to MinerTalk. We'll pick a winner at the end of this show. So really appreciate it, Adrian. Thanks for weighing in on the show and talking about some UTEP basketball thoughts that you had from listening to the contest. Now, if anybody else wants to chime in, our telephone number, 915-505-6009. That's our telephone number to get into the show. Let's burn through some tweets. Let's talk some texts that came in. This coming in from Locomotive Miner. Love the depth of this team. Love the defensive effort. The shooting and the foul shooting worries me. Foul shooting could cost us a game sooner or later. This team plays more as a team than any UTEP team in the past 12 years. Overall, I've liked what I've seen in the early part of the year. Got to keep growing and improving. Go Miners. That's coming from Lou. And I think that's an interesting point right there as far as some of the worries he has. Foul shooting could worries him. Shooting could cost him games. In this contest right here in particular, UTEP shot 50% from free throw range, 6 of 12 today from the line. They were 3 of 11 from beyond the arc. They can't hit a three. They're not a good three-point shooting team right now. And I didn't expect them to be a good three-point shooting team at all, for that matter, Sal. And I'll also bring up Jonathan Byers, who tweeted the show. In the past 3 games, here has been UTEP's three-point percentage against Texas, 33%, against NMSU, 23%, against Sul Ross, 17%. So it's a rough go-around for the three-point shooting so far for UTEP, but that's not their identity. Their identity is not a shooting team yet, and I think like we saw last year, I said it before the season started, like we said last year, their shooting and their offense will come along probably by Conference USA time around. It's not coming yet.
Well, I think the ball movement is going to get there for sure. We've seen some flashes of that, but as far as shots go, they got to be dropping at some point, and it even goes beyond beyond, not range-wise, but if we look deeper than just the three-point line, how about the free throw line? Just haven't been impressive against Texas. 66 we'll round it out, 67 to be generous. 67% against New Mexico State, 58%, and then tonight, looking at the numbers here, only 60%. So they're physical enough to get to the line, but they're right though. If they want to take that next step and win those close games against the upper echelon of Conference USA or just some dogs, I mean even Alcorn State coming up, they're gonna need every point that they can get, and if you can't get them at the free throw line, you're resulting to jump shots or inside works. But either way, you got to make your jump shots and your free throws at times. Definitely free throws more than jump shots, so they got to touch on that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of how last year's team was at times where it was like, man, they're shooting like 18% from the field tonight or like 20% from the field, but they're defending at a high level, so the score is low. Like
yeah.
And I think this team, they'll notice that they'll have a bad shooting night and they'll just go to like a slow down offense like they did against Texas and limit the possessions the other teams gets.
And the plus for them, if nothing is working on offense, is they can rely on their defense to create those opportunities, right? The fast break points, just being able to control the rock. So their defense is going to give them those opportunities, but they got to make do with those opportunities.
Our telephone number, 915-505-6009, as we continue here on Miner Talk. UTEP Mineto checking in on the show. I was right before Coach Joe Golding, and I am right now about his family, his team, coaches, and players. They are the right choice for UTEP. Hashtag MinerTalk. That's what UTEP Mineto says. Also checking in is Joe Chacon, our good pal. Fellas, I've seen UTEP play the likes of Northern Iowa, Coppin State, Little Rock, Delaware State, etc. If you're a fan, you support your team no matter what. Who knows how these teams we play on the non-conference schedule will fare, but don't bash Coach Golding for wanting more fan involvement. This is a completely new team that seems to be his system. That's what we want. Now it's time to go support them. Don't dog the schedule. Let's get that 25th win this year. Hashtag RiseUp915. Hashtag reppin' from Colorado now. Hashtag Miner Inc. Crew.
Nice tap, by the way. But if I could say this, and not to kind of be a downer, but Coppin State, Northern Iowa, Little Rock, and Delaware State, those are Division I teams.
Yeah, there you go.
So I understand what he means though, because there's some dark horses, in the MEAC, in the SWAC, you name it.
Southland, killing it right now.
Mid-American, you know what I mean. Southland. There's some really, really good basketball teams. So it's not a knock on them. It's just when we look at this and Sul Ross being a Division III team, what really do you make of it? You got to get out of the game healthy and continue to establish your identity, and they did that tonight.
Yeah, and I've said this before. I'll say it again for people who who haven't listened or who haven't heard about this. But schedule making at the college basketball level, at the Division I level in West Texas, El Paso, where we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's tough. And I mean middle of nowhere compared to other universities and how difficult it might be to travel to El Paso from some of these other universities. But still, look at where UTEP is. And then also at the same time, all right, let's just take it into perspective like this. Football schedules in advance years. And I'm talking like, UTEP has their 2028 schedule down. Like they know who they're going to play in non-conference for years to come on the football side of things. And that takes a lot of different things. I'm not saying football schedule making is easy. It takes relationships. It takes having the right ties with the right conferences who you're going to play in non-conference, making sure you have a balance of, hey, some maybe winnable games in non-conference or some good matchups in football, and then at the same time you want to get paid. So now on the basketball side of things, it's totally different because it's year to year. It's not let's schedule this in advance 5 years. Hey, you might have some here and there that give you a home and home, or maybe they'll do 2 for 1, 2 home games over there, and they do an away game over here, something like that. We've seen that happen. Like I'll give you a quick example. Kansas, Rodney Terry, he orchestrated that deal. They played that game late in March or early March, I believe, that season. And then the second game they played, it was actually Joe Golding. Golding played them to kick off last season or to tip off last season in the early part of the year. So that just shows you right there, there are some tie-ins, but for the most part, it's year-to-year schedule making. And when I was talking to some coaches before the season started, I asked them, give me the breakdown. Like, why is it so hard to schedule, to develop a schedule? Well, think about the transfer portal, right? Like, let's say, I'm just going to pick a random team. Like, let's say a Wyoming, or let's say UTEP's next opponent in Alcorn State. Let's say they had 9 players depart from last year. And let's say they have a whole new team coming in this year, 9 new players. Well, what if the coach thinks, I have no clue what this team is going to be. I don't want to go on the road and play a team like UTEP. I want to play teams in my area. I want to build my program up a little bit more. So I think it's situational. It's also based off coaches and the relationship you might have with those coaches. So more politics play into it in college basketball. There has to be a lot more agreements in place, and it's harder nowadays to schedule make in college basketball, I think, than it's ever been.
And two things that I want to bring up. You mentioned the politics of it, how some of these coaches, they know each other from somewhere. So that coaching tree, what is it, like the 3 degrees of separation?
There you go.
That's exactly what it is in college basketball. And then another thing, too, you mentioned how hard it is to get teams to come down here. It's going to get a lot tougher for 2 teams. One, of course, the Miners, but 2 being New Mexico State. It's good for those 2 because now there's going to be 2 guaranteed games. I mean, as it was before due to the rivalry, but now them joining Conference USA, those 2 games are going to be a guarantee. But with that comes that added responsibility. Although it can be fun going on the road or trying to bring somebody in, it's going to be a lot tougher trying to fill those spots. So, yeah, you got 2 guaranteed games now, but 2 spots opened up. How are you going to fill it in? I mean, it can be a good thing, but what makes it tough is New Mexico State is a perennial power coming out of still with the WAC, but coming out of the WAC. Who wants to go there and potentially lose? And then for the Miners, if Golding is continuing to improve this team, who's going to want to come down here if with it not being a buyout game? So that's going to be the tough part.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the home schedule for New Mexico State, I mean, their schedule is almost worse. I mean, it is probably worse right now. Just looking at it right here, they have it's 100 times worse. What am I saying? They have UTEP at home, New Mexico at home, Northern New Mexico at home. That's it. That's it. They don't have anybody else that they're hosting. They're going on the road to face Duquesne, on the road to face St. Mary's, on the road to face, in a neutral setting, to face San Diego and Santa Clara. That's terrible. I mean, that's unfortunate right there for Greg Heyer, but that just tells you and puts it into perspective how difficult it really is to schedule make in this college basketball universe we live in.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of New Mexico State, that team's only going to get better year in and year out. So it just really adds to that point. If you want to play New Mexico State and you're a good team, you're probably going to want to take them to your house instead of taking a trip down to the Pan Am Center.
This coming in from UTEP Mineto. I was right before Joe Golding and I am right about his family, his team. Oh, he reiterates it. He is the right choice for UTEP in the city of El Paso. He just wants to make sure we're saying this. I appreciate that, UTEP Mineto. I appreciate the passion. Cesar Cubillos, even this game shows the improvement. Just 2 years ago, UTEP men's basketball trailed Sul Ross at the half and managed a 19-point win. Love the defense today. Not a game to brag about, but great tune-up for future games. Onyema and Frazier give UTEP a real presence in the paint. That's coming from Cesar Cubillos. That's a good point about the Sul Ross game.
You know what? I like that phrase he used, tune-up. That's what you could really make of this game. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And just looking at that box score real quick, 2 years ago, Sul Ross comes to town. It's Julian Paredes, the Kenny Teo standout. It's Tristan Licone, who graduated from Americas and then finished out his career at Texas, is now a GA over there right now as well. Those are 2 guys who are on that roster, along with Mitchell Martinez, who also graduated from Eastwood. Those players were on that roster in that game. And in that contest, he's right. UTEP ended up winning 84-65. And that one, they did struggle. I do remember that. 2021, actually, Yeah, that was a 2021 game in that season. So it was the 2020-2021 game. So interesting enough. But let's continue. We'll move forward. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. That's our telephone number to get into Miner Talk. We're also at 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter, at 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter. Oscar at Oscar Jr. 915 tweets us, lots of positives, but the free throw shooting has been abysmal. It needs immediate attention. I think it just needs immediate attention from the right players. I always say don't take players for granted. People took the Sule Boom free throw shooting for granted. They did.
Automatic.
He was automatic. As soon as he stepped to the line, you knew he was making every single free throw that he was attempting. And that was so comforting for UTEP last year and over the past several years. And they don't have a somebody like that who's automatic just yet. I'll say that they have a couple guys who can become that person, but to have that right there, I think, all right, Sule Boom is the anomaly, right? Like that. Having somebody as automatic as Sule Boom is almost once in a generation from the free throw line. But what you can hope is that one of these guys morphs into a Jamal Bieniemy-like free throw shooter, which when JB was hot, he would just hit the free throws in the right time. And that's what I appreciated about watching JB last year, is that it felt like in all the big moments, whenever he'd get to the free throw line, he was automatic. And I think that's the difference right there. Like, Sule Boom, automatic all the time, okay? You don't necessarily have to be an automatic all the time free throw shooter, because I get it. You're going to have a missed free throw here and there. But try to aspire to be like that JB, the Jamal Bieniemy. When it's a big moment, you're going to hit the free throw no matter what.
The ones that matter the most, right? I mean, every point matters. You can look back in retrospect like, hey, if they would have made this shot at this point in the first half, yeah, it'd be different. But the point is, at a certain, area of the game where that margin for error is slimmer, that's when you got to execute. So I see what you mean.
Yeah, I totally agree there, Sal. Let's keep it moving. I just want to reel off some notes that I have, Sal, with just certain players, and then we're gonna start closing this one up already. It's been fun just talking some UTEP hoops. It's a quiet night. I get it. This is it's early season basketball. We're gonna talk a lot more next week. You're gonna have 3 editions of Miner Talk of us next week, and then another one the following week. Oh, and by the way, we're back at it Saturday for UTEP football and Florida International. Not to mention next Saturday, UTEP football against the UTSA.
It's not enough. We need more.
We need more. You need more of me and Sal. Next week we have 4 Miner Talks. How about that, Sal?
Oh, man, if only there were more days in a week for us to get them in, right?
If only there was a game on Thanksgiving, right?
All right, hold on.
All right, okay. I'm gonna reel off some notes. You tell me what you think. This is just what I noticed so far. Okay. Calvin Solomon, for those who don't remember, number 13. I think he's streaky. I think he's somebody who is great on defense. He is solid around the rim. He doesn't really have range as far as a shot yet. He doesn't have that kind of confidence yet either. Last game, the game before, I thought he was just trying to play he was playing a little loose. But today he kind of toned it down, dialed it back a little bit, and made players around him a little bit better. So Calvin Solomon is definitely a player I'm watching all season long. Streaky guy, tremendous on defense, has a lot to improve on, and I think that's a good thing, right? Like he's nowhere near a finished product.
No, definitely not. And although, the aspects that we want to see him improve on, he's not there yet. Just the way that he approaches things and what we hear or what I've heard of him in practice and just the effort that he displays, it's inevitable that he's going to get better throughout the year. So he's still a work in progress, but fun to watch. This is a guy who could be pretty special in the future.
Zarek Onyema, we talk about him a lot. Today, I saw him chase down a block. That's another thing he's added to his bag is now he's got this chase down block to him. I loved watching that one right there. I don't think we need to spend too much on Zarek Onyema since we've done it a lot throughout the first 2 games. But I do want to spend time talking about Otis Frazier.
Oh, man.
What the biggest surprise on this team, the best surprise on this team as well. The story behind him is so interesting, right? Because at George Mason, he averages 7 minutes his first year, his freshman season. He averages 8 minutes last year. He actually scores under 3 points and averages under 2 rebounds in each season. just never can get on the court, Sal. And so he enters the portal following a coaching change or whatever ended up happening at George Mason. I don't know. But he ended up entering the transfer portal. But what kind of film? If you're a player like that, what film do you send out? Well, I heard that he sent out practice film, and the UTEP coaches fell in love with him based off the practice film that they saw. I didn't see it. I did not see it on any of the highlights before he was coming here to UTEP. I didn't see it on any of the huddle things that I saw. Out of high school, I didn't see it at all. I was thinking to myself, man, this is going to be a guy who's just a project, who they develop in the system. Maybe he plays next year or the year after. Maybe he morphs into somebody who can kind of stretch the floor and help UTEP out. I kind of even, I was really down on him just as a player on paper. And then he comes to UTEP, and he's just lighting it up in practice over the offseason. And then I'm really starting to think, Otis Frazier could be a solid piece on this team. Maybe he can be an off-the-bench rotational player. Day one, he starts. And I'm thinking, oh, no, this is real. This guy is an impact rotational piece on this group, and he will be an integral piece with this group moving forward. He's athletic. He can cut to the rim like no one on this team. He has a nose for the basketball, plays way better off ball, cannot create on ball. Great on defense. Today he had 4 steals. He's very aggressive. I don't see him necessarily being reckless on defense. I see him being more poised and chasing after those interceptable balls in a sense, or passes. Frazier, best surprise thus far. I am really looking forward to him throughout this season.
Yeah, somebody that they can rely on as well, especially down low. So with Frazier sending in that practice footage, it's funny you bring that up because in the post-game show, Coach Golden was mentioning, they have tomorrow off, but then after that, going to do my favorite thing, and that's practice. So, hey, if you're a basketball player who doesn't have much game film, but there's a lot of practice footage, send that practice footage too, because there's coaches who love practice as well, as Coach Golding said, and a lot could stand out from there. So that's huge. I didn't even know that he sent out the practice footage.
That's so crazy, man.
That's cool.
Crazy. Yeah, it's a good story right there. Shamar Givens, Shams, we're going to call him because everybody there calls him Shams. I'm double downing on him. I know it's been a shaky start. I know he can't shoot this. He hasn't been able to shoot thus far, or at least I should say at least display his shooting abilities, because to say he can't shoot thus far is not fair to what he does at practice. I've seen it. I'll just say it. I've seen it. So I'm double downing on him. I think he's a floor general. I think he does so much. He's elite on defense, 3 steals today in 17 minutes. We don't really take much from him today anyways. Shamar Givens has been slow to start off in the scoring column, but as of everything else, he just dishes, he facilitates, he makes people around him better. I don't think he's asked to be the guy yet, to score for them thus far. I'm double downing on him. Are you worried with Shamar Givens?
I'm not worried because 3 games so far in, right? As bad as those numbers look, he's still a piece of the puzzle on defense, and he's that anchor, he's that captain. So in retrospect, he can kind of afford some of these nights off offensively by not reeling in a high shooting percentage or not making a small amount of shots, but he's somebody that they need on the floor just for that veteran leadership. So eventually it's going to come. I'm with you. I really like Givens' game. There's gonna be a coming out party with him dropping 23 or something like that.
I know it.
Out of nowhere. And it's going to happen, and teams aren't going to be ready for that. And when it does, it's going to make everybody around him even better.
He's 2 of 9 from the field so far, 1 of 2 from the 3-point line, 4 of 5 from free throws made into 3 contests thus far. So not great numbers, but I'm betting on the long haul. We'll see you in February, Shamar Givens. I promise that. I know it. Kevin Kalu. He's improved his aggressiveness. He needs more minutes, and he needs free throw work. Anything else you want to add there on Kevin Kalu?
It's tough because tonight, in a game where you expect guys to take that leap and play big, he did play big today. So he was 5 for 6 with 13 points. So it's there, albeit it is against Sul Ross State. He has those pieces of the puzzle. Just want to see some consistency. We'll
talk about Tay Hardy, Mario McKinney Jr., Derek Hamilton, and Carlos Lemos in just a second. But let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. You're listening to Miner Talk, brought to you by the Oscar Arrieta Agency right here on 600 ESPN El Paso.
From hometown to national. Sports spoken here. 600 ESPN El Paso is KROD El Paso, a Town Square media station.
Let's keep it moving. Tay Hardy, my notes. He needs to be a Jamal Bieniemy level free throw shooter. I mentioned that earlier. Maybe it's Tay Hardy who could be this guy. He attacks the rim A+. He guards at an A+ level. He could be just a little bit better defensively. I could see that right there. 2 blocks, 3 steals, 24 minutes for Tay Hardy, 8 points. Can continue to become a better shooter. I know that. Is aggressive on the rebounding side. Does take some possessions off defensively, but it's very few. It's like 1 in 50, you know. And Tay Hardy, I think he's really good off-ball defense. He just needs to be a tad bit better on-ball defense. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's at least what I've seen so far.
He has the experience for sure. I think that's a big reason why Coach Golding and the staff trust him to be out there. He looks good at times, but you definitely want to see a step up offensively. But what I've seen from him is he's not afraid of anything out there on the floor. I mean, none of these guys are, but when you look at Tay Hardy, you get that sense of this is somebody whoever he's matched up against is probably going to have to go to their second or their third move, whether it be, you know, on offense or defense, however they want to attack. He's going to be able to adjust as the game goes on. So I trust him out there. Even though the numbers aren't showing it, he's kind of like with Givens, he's still a big piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, and I also like him just being calm and kind of that veteran guy. He's led a team at the mid-major level before in scoring, so he doesn't necessarily have to do that here, but he can if he has to. Mario McKinney Jr. is the most athletic player on this team. He has the best swag and he has the best style and best swag when he plays. You know, like he's got a swagger to him, a confidence, a moxie. Like he almost reminds me of like a football quarterback in a sense where he's just he's so ferocious. He's talking. He gets after it defensively, offensively. He can play. He loves playing in transition. Loves playing when there's kind of that open court. It felt like on every steal, every transition play, Mario McKinney Jr. was active at some point. So just really impressed by him early on. Any thoughts on him?
2 things. One is I think he should crack the starting lineup and be in there.
Okay, over who?
If I had to pick, so my ideal lineup is a 3-guard lineup.
Okay,
so
I like that.
It'd be Givens, Hardy, and McKinney, Frazier, and then for the 5. Oh man, it's really tough to call. Probably Onyema or maybe let's go Onyema.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be my.
So no Calvin Solomon.
I like Solomon too, and I think they could. You could switch it up depending on whatever that matchup is, whoever you're going up against that game. But more on McKinney, I think more so than anybody on this roster, he's the most recognizable and best at being the change of pace player.
Yeah, I could see that. I definitely could see that.
When it comes to one-on-one, without a doubt, McKinney's got to have the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I feel like you could kind of think, all right, maybe Shamar Givens is like Jamal Bieniemy was as more of a facilitator last year. Okay, maybe he's not score first yet like JB was last year. Maybe you say like Tay Hardy is taking on that shooting guard role. It's not Sule Boom's role, but it's more of a shooting guard role. But they never had a role like Mario McKinney last year. And I think that's the new kind of edge that this year's team brings, is that they got somebody like him. And he can kind of be that spark plug, whether it's off the bench or like you're mentioning, on the floor to start things off. Remember Sule Boom kind of came off the bench when he was first emerging with UTEP basketball?
That's absolutely right. I forgot about that.
So maybe he could become somebody like that who just slowly like integrates himself in the starting lineup, and then who knows, maybe in February we're talking about Mario McKinney Jr. as the guy to this team. So we don't know. It's
possible, yeah. I mean, and that's a good thing, right? Because that lets you know early on, hey, there's guys who are showing these flashes of and they're probably not even thinking of it the same way that we are, right? They just want to win it as a team, and then over here we're like, this is the best player, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, as time goes on, there's going to be more identities developed. But for sure with this team, and I can't really say the same for previous teams, but there's so many different guys with different roles that they can fit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I appreciate the most.
I agree with you there, Sal. Also, I would say let's move over to Derek Hamilton. For Derek Hamilton, can't move, but he can play. Makes sense? Does that make sense at all? Like he's struggling to move right now, and he'll get better. He's brand new at this Division I level. He'll get better, but he can play. Like I like what all right. Here we go. He's an upgrade from Bonky Maring, and that's all he was asked to be. I think he just needed to be a little bit better than Bonky Maring was last year, who they obviously replaced Bonky with him, and I like that upgrade right there. And I think the fans like him. They were chanting. They were going a little crazy when they saw they called him Big D down low. I like it. Why not?
Yeah, with Hamilton, he has the pieces, and for sure for him to crack the floor despite what's being said about him shows that he has that potential. And one, he's working his butt off in practice, but two, Coach Golding trusts him out there.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and you're exactly right. That's what you need to do to earn some more playing time, is earn the trust of the coach. Carlos Lemos, I'm a big fan. He's great on defense. Here we go, Sal. Here's my hot take on Carlos Lemos. He might be a step up over Jarrell Satterfield from last year. That's the upgrade right there that I saw and I've noticed. Carlos Lemos might play those same minutes that Jarrell Satterfield would have played on this group. And I like him more than Jarrell Satterfield because he defends. And I think that Carlos Lemos can be a better shooter as the season goes along. But what we've seen so far is he has a good shot. If you ask me right now who might be the best pure shooter on UTEP, Carlos Lemos might be among the top 5 of that list, or top 3 of that short list right there. 10 points today, 4 of 7 shooting. He didn't hit a 3, but he had some nice looks over there, and then had 3 steals on defense. Like, this guy can play on both ends.
Yeah, and he's doing it at we could be doing it at a high level. I was going to say he's doing that at a high level, but defensively, he's there. Those looks are going to continue to come to anybody really who's open, especially with the ball movement improving. But they got to hit those shots, down the road. So I know it's still early on, plenty of work to get to. But, I mean, if they're getting these looks based off of their defense now, they could continue to see that throughout the season. And, if guys get on a shooting streak, then, we're having a whole different conversation on how next level they could be.
Yeah,
they are at that point.
But that's a great point, Sal. That's a really good point there. And also interesting, both guys are JUCO guys. I mean, when they first broke into Division I hoops, they're both JUCO players. So interesting to kind of note right there. Let's move on. Let's switch up the topic a little bit. Let's talk about the guys who left the program and some guys that we have little ties to. And we'll start off with Tristan Newton. He didn't leave the program. He was never recruited by the program until this new coaching staff came here and tried to come in a little bit late, unfortunately, for them. I mean, it was to no fault of them. But Tristan Newton dropping a triple-double for UConn today. This program got it wrong back in 2016. They should have went after him, man. They should have. I mean, back when they had an opportunity, they should have struck there, because Tristan Newton, 22 points, 11 assists, 10 rebounds in UConn's win tonight. That's just really impressive. As he came from East Carolina, now with UConn, and having a lot of success.
And check this out, right? We talk about the triple double, but he also gets 4 steals, a block, 0 fouls.
Wow.
So for him to be
that's a good Buffalo team too.
Yeah, and for him to be as active as he was all over the floor, but specifically on defense, and to finish with 0 fouls, that's huge. He's the only starter. Let me check Buffalo too. Okay, there was another one, Foster. He was a starter without fouls, but still though, to finish without fouls and be as active as you were, that's pretty impressive. And this guy's a hooper.
So just to put it into perspective, Buffalo knocked off Colgate, who today beat Syracuse today. So there you go. I mean, that just tells you right there.
Basketball in November. That's all it is.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. Jarrell Satterfield, speaking of, with Portland State, 0-2 Portland State, by the way, struggling. But Jarrell Satterfield is not struggling, although he's only shooting 29% from three-point range. He's scoring 14.5 points and grabbing 4.5 rebounds a game. Titus Verhoeven so far averaging 4 points and 4 rebounds for Northwestern. He just posted 2 points and 6 rebounds in a 75-63 win over Georgetown. Isn't that the most Titus Verhoeven stat line ever? 2.6 rebounds.
Yeah, and the game doesn't show on the stat sheet.
Yeah, there you go.
Not even trying to be sarcastic, but yeah.
Saucy, Christian Agnew. How about this, Sal? They had a huge victory over Wyoming. It was actually a big upset. Southeastern Louisiana. This is a team out of, I don't even know, man. They're out of the Texas A&M Corpus Christi. That's the Southland Conference, okay? So Southeastern Louisiana right now, 2-1 on the year. They recently knocked off Wyoming. In that game, Christian Agnew had 15 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist to help lead the way for that squad. So a little saucy check right there. Did a nice job. But, it's nothing compared to former UTEP standout Sule Boom. Xavier, standout right now, averaging 15 points, almost 4 assists. Shooting, get this, Sal, you're going to love this. Shooting over 69% from the field. Like, this guy's killing it right now in his field goal percentage. He shot 75% in their win over Montana, and then with 23 points in their win over Morgan State. I get it, it's Morgan State, but still shoots 66% from the floor and then 66% from three-point range. Sule Boom off to a great start so far, and I couldn't be happier for that guy.
And you know what, too, just to kind of take it back a bit, to open up the season against Morgan State, he gets 5 steals. We saw him be a steal monster in I think it was the Middle Tennessee game in the tournament, and then the next game, no steals, but he fills in with 5 assists. And I know they had a game tonight. The stats aren't showing. Let me pull it up here. Okay, against Fairfield, a respective game here. They got the win, so they're now 3-0. But for Sule Boom, he finishes 4 for 9. 7 rebounds and 5 assists.
Wow.
Only 11 points, though. Come on. No, but perfection from the line, 3 for 3. So, I mean, we've seen that progression, right? When he started, showcasing for the Miners off the bench, it was this guy can shoot. And then, he evolved into a starter. Okay, this guy can score at a high level. And then now he's being more efficient. All he does is shoot. Okay, he picks better spots and takes better shots. Then he starts passing the ball and racking up assists, getting rebounds and steals. It's kind of like that evolution, right, from a guy who was just coming off the bench and shooting to now somebody that you can build a team around.
Yeah, and I think that for Sule Boom, just an outstanding player that I think that we're going to follow throughout the whole season. I really do. I think that we're going to watch him in March play hoops, play at the highest level in the NCAA tournament, just like we saw Bryson Williams. I really do. I'm going to bet on the long haul with Sule Boom for sure after this one. One other name I did not mention, Keontae Kennedy. He has played in 2 contests thus far with Memphis. Keontae Kennedy, who transferred over from UTEP this past year, the 6'5" guard. He's averaging 2 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist on 25% field goal shooting. So, he probably wants to step it up a little bit in their recent loss to St. Louis. He actually posted 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists in 21 minutes. So there you go. I mean, not a bad performance whatsoever by Keontae Kennedy, who gets a little bit more minutes in this recent contest against St. Louis. So that rounds out some of the former UTEP players right there. Let's close out the show right now. Let's just preview ahead quickly an upcoming week for the Miners. They've got Alcorn State first. We just mentioned what kind of team they are. Cal State Bakersfield comes to town on Wednesday, so Wednesday game for the Miners. And then Friday, closing things out, it's Texas A&M Corpus Christi. This is the tough one right here. Texas A&M Corpus Christi was the same team who made it to the NCAA tournament last year. They won the Southland Conference outright in the tournament, and as a result, they were the 16th seed in the NCAA tournament last year. That's going to be the toughest team that UTEP faces ahead of New Mexico State. I know we talked about Alcorn, but this one, Texas A&M Corpus Christi on next Friday, that's going to be the toughest matchup UTEP has.
Yeah, and this is a team who's kind of found that identity, right? In a way, and I'm not going to compare exactly because it's a different program, but we kind of look at what Abilene Christian became under Goling, where year by year you were seeing that progression. Texas A&M could be that next team out of Texas that is a mid-major power if they continue to go on that trend. But you're right, it's going to be a tough game for the Miners, especially with their forward Mushila. This guy is averaging just under 19 points per game, and on the boards he's averaging a double-double with 13 rebounds per game and almost 5 of those being offensive rebounds. So it's going to be crucial. I know we're jumping ahead, really, but it's going to be crucial for them to close out those possessions.
Hey, this coming in from Ruben Ramirez, our good pal. Love UTEP men's basketball game tonight, a tune-up for Alcorn State next week. But tonight was the perfect game for every player to see action. I was totally disappointed that Garrett Levesque did not get to see 1 minute of action. If not tonight, win. Just saying, hashtag come on. I'm with you. I wanted to see Garrett Levesque tonight too, and we did not. We did not see him. So I'm with you completely there, Ruben. Very good point. A couple other tweets to get to before we wind up this show. Joe Chacon, let's have this conversation again when UTEP men's basketball is a 12th seed in the big dance. Hashtag just saying. Hashtag whenever Kaplowitz wakes up, let him know what I said. Hashtag Sal needs to post his. Hashtag Miner
right.
Inc. Hashtag approved. Hashtag Adrian needs some Miner Inc. Hashtag pickaxe on the face right before the wedding, hangover style. You like that? You like that right there, Sal?
You better do it, man.
A little pickaxe.
You better, yeah.
On the face.
I'll make sure he does it. Don't worry.
On the cheek. On the neck. There you go. It's the neck
there
tattoo
you go.
I need. All right, good stuff, Joe Chacon. I will not be getting a tattoo anytime soon. Not of UTEP or anything, but it's nothing against UTEP. I just won't. I'm not a tat guy. I love tats, and I think they look great on other people. Just they don't look good on me. So that's how I feel about them. 915 Sun City. If UTEP wants to keep the basketball rolling, you have to start building a financial war chest to make it too hard for Golding not to stay in El Paso. Need to prepare for the future. He's an El Paso type of guy, and UTEP needs to pay this man well. Maybe Joe Golding could be UTEP's first $1 million coach. That's the thing that I think we're all waiting for, right?
Yeah, and a lot of mid-major powers or who are on that path to being a power, they pay their coaches the big bucks. And he's right. At some point, they're going to have to pay Golding, more than what they offered initially. And that's just the way with everything, right? I mean, not to get too political, but like inflation does exist.
Right.
So there's cost of living raises, but that's base. Like that should come with the territory. So whatever promotion or raise that's to be given outside of that should be the only one really accounted for when you're bringing it up, because at the very least, that cost of living should be default for sure. So, and by the way, line ringing in 1 sec.
No, you're exactly right though, Sal. It's just it's about time. That's the best way to put it. It's just about time that UTEP pays coaches like that handsomely moving forward. But our telephone number 915-505-6009 to get into the program. Also want to mention they made it official. UTEP basketball signed Texas Prep standout David Terrell from Mansfield Summit. An excellent signing right there, along with Trey Horton, who's a sharpshooter out of Providence Day School in Charlotte, North Carolina. Both winners, according to Coach Golding. Very excited about both these players, and it's encouraging that UTEP gets more high school guys that they could develop within the pipeline. That's exactly what they need to do to continue to build this program, and of course that is build within high school players, build within youth, because that'll be the lifeblood of your program in years to come. So very, very encouraging right there. The UTEP had 2 NLIs that they announced for this week, and those players in particular made it official last week. Let's keep it moving. Let's go off to Ricardo, who's joining us next on the program. 915-505-6009. That's our telephone number to get into the program. Also hearing that Garrett Levesque is redshirting, so that's one of the reasons why. Big shout out to our good pal Steve Yellen for texting into the show. So Ruben, that's your reason right there. Garrett's not playing. He's redshirting. Speaking of redshirt, I don't know if I could share this on the radio. I'm just going to say this. I'm not going to share this yet. I'll share this later on in the year when I know I'm good and I'm in the clear. I just want to say this, Sal. We get to watch some of the red shirts play at practice. Jamal Sumlin, man. That's a name to think about in the future. He is so fun to watch. He is outstanding. The Cleveland, Ohio high school product, true freshman who's going to be likely redshirted this year. He is so much fun. I can't wait for you to see him.
Yeah, and that's another guard who could shake things up a bit. And
there you go.
That's what I was going to ask about as well, because they were talking about Levesque, and it's like, where's Sumlin at? But I'm glad you brought that up, because if early on, right, as a freshman, he's getting this type of experience in practice, going up against guys like Hardy, McKinney, Givens, Limos, veterans, and also too to kind of teeter away, but I'll bring it back. These guys go up against each other in practice where these scrimmages are so low, that the scores are so low because they're just beating each other up, being as physical as possible. That's going to make everybody so much better. Before a youngin like Jamal Sumlin to go through that, and not only go through it, but shine while going through that, that's going to be incredible to watch, because when he steps out on the floor, he's not going to fear anybody.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Sal. I'm with you completely. He already doesn't fear anybody. That's what scares me about this kid. Ricardo's joining us next to close out Miner Talk, 915-505-6009 as we continue. Ricardo, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Doing well, Ricardo. What'd you think of this game?
Well, I listened to it on the 600 radio. I was at work, and I was also following the score. And I was a bit worried. I don't know why I was a bit worried. I'm always worried when it comes to UTEP.
Hey, I don't blame you. Yeah, hey, I get it. Hey, you probably watched this football team for the entire season. You're like, yeah, I'm worried about everything UTEP.
Oh yeah, every game I'll watch them until I die.
There you go. All right. Well, what did you think of this contest? What do you think of this team?
You know what? They're doing pretty good. I like it. There's definitely some things they have to work. This is definitely a tune-up game. But I did they won by 40. This was a D3 Soul Rush team, right? But I thought they did pretty well. I think the main problem is they don't really have a shooter. They can't shoot from the three. I think that's going to be a problem for them. And the free throw line, too. It's going to be a big problem for them if they can't get that fixed.
You know, I think it's just too early to think about. I think it's worrying early on. Okay, maybe that they have a little bit of trouble shooting or free throws, whatever it may be. But I think that it'll be something that they clean up later on in the year, just like they did last year. Early on into the season last year, they really didn't have an offensive identity, period. And at least this year's team has cohesion on offense. I think the shots will fall later on in the year.
Yeah, that's true. That is fair. I definitely do like our defense. They play hard. I was there for that New Mexico game, and they really did just control that game the entire time. Even though it was 67-64, I mean, they were up by 10-8 the entire game. And this game, too, they dominated as well. And I'm liking the future for this team.
All right, Ricardo. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for weighing in on the show. Are you going to be going to any of the games next week?
I am. I am going to go to the FIU, so I'm hoping they win.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Ricardo. Appreciate the phone call. Yeah, we'll see what happens with UTEP football. Yeah, it's a whole other topic right there, Sal. We'll save it. I can't do it. I can't talk UTEP football right now until seeing Saturday's game. And I don't even know.
And you know what? It's okay.
I don't have it.
You don't have to do that tonight, because if you want your UTEP football fix, there's the Daniel Dimmel radio show.
Thank you.
Tomorrow night. Is it at Moon Tower?
Yes, that's exactly
Moon Tower, and live check here. Let me do this. I'm gonna check ahead to tomorrow because I know these times vary. Let me see here. I think it's a 6 o'clock.
Yeah. It is a 6 o'clock.
Yeah, there we go. 6 o'clock start time. So you'll get your UTEP fix. And also, too, I'll say this because I know that we get some flack sometimes. Why don't you guys ask this? Why don't you ask that? The floor is open for you guys, too. You can call in. You can tweet. There it is.
Yep, there you go, Sal. Love it. All you have to do is just go to the Moon Tower or follow in on the show and be involved and try to ask your question there. So, yeah, we're talking UTEP football tomorrow with Voice of the Miners, John Teicher, with UTEP football and Dana Dimmel. And then we've got UTEP football Miner Talk on Saturday. It's an afternoon kickoff, 2 o'clock start for that one. But UTEP has the rest of the week off for basketball. They take on Alcorn State next week. Sal, any final thoughts tonight before we wrap things up?
It's good that they got out of this game healthy. Same for Sul Ross State. You know what I mean? They have a good team. I know they're Division III, and I was harping on that, but they're poised to be one of the leaders in their conference. Although losing a guy like Tristan Licon a couple years ago, it hurts. You can't replace him. But when you have so many veterans on that team, it's going to bode well. So they're going to be fun to watch if you have a chance and you're out there in Alpine or in any of the towns that they go up that they visit for the competition. Definitely check them out. And then as far as the Miners go, good thing they got out of this one healthy. it was the Frazier party tonight. That's what I got from it.
Yeah, as far as Otis Frazier, he is going to win our Player of the Game thanks to Keith Southwest. They have joined us for Miner Talk over the past couple years, and really special thanks to Keith Southwest for bringing us our Player of the Game, which is credited to Otis Frazier III in this contest. Now, as far as hot hand of the game in this game, we're going to give it out to somebody in Jamari Sibley, who was 6 of 9 from the field. He also contributed with 4 rebounds, really helped the Miners off the bench in a big way. 13 points in 20 minutes of action. Jamari Sibley, the hot hand of the game, especially in the second half. He was pacing the Miners really nicely, and Jamari Sibley showing what he could do off the bench today, winning the hot hand award thanks to our great friends at Wind Supply El Paso. That'll do it for us tonight. For Sal Montes, I'm Adrian Brada saying so long. We'll be back next week for UTEP men's basketball talk. It's UTEP versus Alcorn State. Until then, we'll be back in action already on Saturday following the UTEP football game. That's UTEP taking on Florida International. Thank you so much for everybody listening. We'll have the podcast up on demand wherever you get your podcasts. So if you miss any of Miner Talk, subscribe, download, and rate, review. That really helps us out. We really appreciate whenever we get those reviews and feedback on Miner Talk. Thank you so much to the Oscar Arieta Agency for sponsoring Miner Talk. We're wrapping things up. For Sal Montes, I'm Adrian Brada saying so long. Thank you so much for listening to Miner Talk, brought to you by the Oscar Arieta Agency here on 600 ESPN El Paso.